Okay, in this lab, I'm going to be describing how to set up a Windows 8 computer system using Oracle VirtualBox. Um, this is an exercise from an assessment test lab that the student had to do. So the task was for them to create a Windows 8 virtual machine by name. The name of the virtual machine was VBox Windows 8. They were also asked to set up a local drive 35 gig and to create two partitions, and one of the primary partitions should be 5 gig and an extended partition with 2 gig. So and other settings should be on default. And the RAM, a 2 gig of RAM for 64-bit computer and 1 gig of RAM for 32-bit computer. So let's say, for example, if I was to come in here and click on create new, now you notice by default is on XP, so I'll scroll down and select Windows 8.1 32 bits. And I'm going to call this computer VBox according to the name given on the task, Win 8.1. That was the name of the PC. So because we're assuming that this virtual computer is a PC computer. So we'll click continue. Now, if you notice, automatically it selected 1 gig of RAM. Now, because if you notice, if I go back, I actually selected a 32-bit. But this computer I'm actually running is a 64-bit. So I'll scroll down and select 64-bit. And you notice when I click continue, it says 2 gig. It says 2 gig of RAM. And I'll click continue again. The next step is to actually create um, a hard drive. Now, this is what we call the VHD, the virtual hard drive. So in this case, I'm going to either create a new virtual hard drive, or if I currently have an existing virtual hard drive running Windows 8, which I've already created earlier on, I will select the drive here, which is 35 gig, and I'll click on that. But I'm not going to do that because another computer is currently using this virtual hard drive. So in this case, in a normal sense, I will actually create a new drive. Now, by default, it's 25 gig. And let's see what happens. If I say create a new hard drive, it's going to click on create. But then it's going to come up with a different type of hard drive files I can create. Excuse me. Now, if you look at it, it says VHD and it says VMDK, which is for VirtualBox, and this is VHD for Microsoft Parallels and the other virtual machines we use as well. But in this case, we're going to take the default, which is VDI for VirtualBox. I'm going to click continue. Now you'll notice you have two types of disks. We all know dynamic allocated means drive will extend as you add more content. Fixed is going to use the entire hard drive. So I'm going to click continue. Now you notice the task said we should take 35. Well, by default, because we're installing Windows 8, it took 25 gig as the default settings, more or less like a template. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here and scrap, take out 2 and put 35. And if I was instructed to put 45 or instructed to put 55, that is how you go all the way to 2 terabytes. So in this case, I'm going to put 35 and I'm going to click create. But for the sake of this example, I'm going to skip this and I'm going to stop here. And when you click create, the virtual machine will be created. I'll move on now to the next step after this machine is created to configure the next settings. Okay, now I'm going to proceed from where I stopped. So let's assume that this was the virtual machine we created. Now we need to set up the machine to prepare it for installation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the machine, which I will assume this is the VBox Win 8.1. I'm going to come to settings and I can change the settings name here to VBox Win 8.1. Just in case, this is also very useful in case you forgot to create the right name. You can always come in and change the name. Now, the most important thing you want to also make sure is to get your settings right, your boot order. Now, we all know we use CD drive and DVDs to boot our Windows operating system. So what I'm going to do, let's say for example, this is messed up. Let's say for example, I have my CD on the fourth option. I can always come and select it and move it up to the top and make sure the buttons are checked, the checkbox are checked. So that is it. I don't need to change any other settings here, and just make sure all my settings are right. If I'm installing from the CD or from the hard drive or from the network, I just put them in the proper order where the operating system image it's residing. Okay, what's the next step? The next step is to configure the drive. Now, by default, the 35 gig you'll be creating will automatically be appearing on your drive. Now, you'll notice that when you set up virtual machines, they usually take a particular controller. But in the case of Windows 8, it took SATA. For example, if you were installing Windows XP, it will take an IDE. So you want to always look at the question properly to find out what you expected to set up. The next step I'm going to do now is to add the Windows image in order for me to be able to boot, since I've added the DVD and the CD as my first boot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to either my SATA or IDE, it doesn't matter. But in this case, I'm going to take my SATA, since our new computers today use SATA connectors. Now, instead of adding a new drive, I'll actually click the first option that says add a CD or a DVD device. So I'm going to add the disk, choose disk, and I'll take my ISO image, which is the X64 bits for enterprise. I'm going to click open. I'm going to click OK, and that is sorted. Now you'll notice if I start up my virtual machine, you see my computer is going to boot from the CD, just like the way you're seeing it now. You see the image is booting, and it will go through with the Windows installation, and Windows will be installed on the computer system. So I'm just going to leave it to run through, and I'll proceed when Windows is installed. So that is all we need for now. So I'm just going to cancel this, and I'll proceed from there. Thank you.